Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Soul School. Jeff will not be with us tonight because it is his son's birthday. And so they are celebrating having a nice family evening together, and I'm delighted about that. So tonight I am bringing on a very special guest who I adore. I think of her as my father's spouse, even though they're not technically married. They really are. And they met several years ago. And the first time that I met her, I was like, oh God, this woman is just so fabulous. And I have since had the privilege and the honor of learning just how fabulous she is. So before I bring her on, I need to apologize to my viewers and explain what happened last week. We had 2 live shows scheduled. Everything was good to go. The links were loaded. Everybody was ready. And at about 20 minutes to 9, while I was in the bathroom putting some makeup on, my sister, Christine, started screaming and telling me to come now. So I dropped what I was doing and I ran through the house and I went to the door, and there had been a very bad car accident in front of the house. And uh, after the impact, the driver took off, just hit the gas and took off. And so I went running outside and saw a beautiful dappled dog, about maybe 40, 50 pounds, a lactating mother dog, and a woman, and holding her little chihuahua sitting in the drainage ditch that's up near the road for the rain spillage. And Christine came running back in the house and she got a couple of blankets, and I went outside and I laid down in the drainage ditch and I held this dog and comforted her the best that I could. Put my whole body up against her body to try to keep her warm. She was obviously in shock. The woman that was walking down the street with her little chihuahua in her arms noticed that a stray was following her, and she tried to get her off the road, but she couldn't get her off the road fast enough. And the car hit her full force and she was bleeding internally. And there was nothing to be done except to call the police and to call animal rescue. And for 90 minutes, I laid on a bed of leaves and held her and whispered to her. And she left this world knowing she was loved. I don't know her name. I don't know what happened to her babies. But needless to say, I was in no shape to do my shows live. And Lenny very kindly put up that we had technical difficulties. And all week, I've been so haunted by this incident that I haven't been able to post about it or tell anybody what exactly happened. But that's what happened, and it was absolutely horrible. And I'm still as traumatized by it now as I was. She had a chip. They reached out to her family. The father of the family came and he stayed with her, and he went with her when animal control took her, and they said that she was beyond saving and that she would have to be euthanized. And the problem is that when you care that much, it hurts that much. And that's why people avoid empathy. Hi, sweetheart, Carmen, my sweetheart, Marie. So anyway, I wanted to tell you I was sorry. And my guest tonight is one of the few people in my life who knew what happened, because I called her and Dad the next morning and I just sobbed like a baby. the night before, I couldn't even cry. I think I was in shock too. I know that Christine was too. Bill, could you please put that comment back up? I didn't get to see it. Oh, thank you, honey. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, thank you, Amir. Thank you, honey. It was, Tom, it was very, very difficult for Christine and I both to get through it. Chris can't talk about it to anybody yet. I mean, it's taken me a whole week to even be able to tell you what happened. And now on my next show, on World Awakening at 10, I have to do it all over again in case anybody that's watching that didn't see this. And so, but anyway, I know she's in a better place. I prayed for her puppies that they would, be big enough and strong enough to survive without their mama. And just thanked the very kind people that came. I mean, there were 5 or 6 people that came, the neighbors, everybody came to help. And there was nothing that we could do but comfort her. That's all that we could do. And sometimes that is all you can do. So, as my darling guest tonight will attest to the fact, you do what you can do, when you can do it, whatever you can do, however you can do it, to make the world a little better place and ease the pain of others, even a dog. They're just as important as any human walking on this planet. They are. Thank you, sweetheart. And their souls too. And we animal lovers. Oh, Peanut's already. She's sleeping through. I'm glad. I don't really want her to hear about this. But anyway, that said, let's move on to somebody who will delight you, who will enlighten you. My darling, darling Carlene Harris. Welcome, welcome to Soul School, and class is in session. And what you have to teach the world is so, so important. And I honor you, and I am privileged to have you in my life, sweetheart.
I thought I was bringing tears myself again.
Again, yeah.
We'll get through it. We will get through it.
Well, we know she's somewhere else now.
She's in a good place.
She's in a good place. Yep. She is. She's in a good place, and I'm sorry. I don't think she was in pain, because I think she was in shock. Mm-hmm. And one minute I'm praying for her to live, and the next minute I'm praying for her to die. Right. When you get in between that place where you don't know what to do, there's nothing left to do, and they're not getting here fast enough. And, it was very, very traumatic for us. And so anyway, because you had to talk me off a ledge. You did. It was bad. It was bad, because when you love that deeply, it hurts that deeply to see something pass away or someone pass away. So anyway, the reason that I wanted to have you on the show tonight was not just to fill in because Jeff is not here. I've wanted to have you on for a long time because you are an inspiration to me. And I remember the first day that we met, and Dad comes home. We were living in the house in Winter Garden. Comes home. He's like, I met the most incredible woman. She called me to make a commercial for her business, and we had coffee together. And he's like, oh my God, Annie, you've got to meet her. Her name is Carlene. She is the most incredible, wonderful, loving, kind, compassionate soul. And my father is not effusive like that. He's just not. I mean, where he started plucking all these applicable words out of the ether. And then he said, I don't know if she's going to want to see me again because I went over to her house and her dog Woody got in the car and wanted to go with me. And I think it upset her. And I'm like, you know what, Dad? If she's everything that you say she is, she's happy that Woody fell madly in love with you right away.
As did I.
Because that tells her what kind of man you are.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. If my dog doesn't approve, forget it.
I know it. That's me too, Peanut. Yeah. I mean, you know, if she doesn't like you, sayonara. That's it. Love me, love my dog. And if my dog doesn't love you, there's a reason, and sayonara.
And all of our dogs love each other.
Yes, and our dogs love each other, which is so great when you guys come up, and I'll be, you know, and I'll be back down once I get into a little stronger, a little, so that I can make that drive and bring Peanut and not have to pull off the highway and sleep for, you know, I don't want to do that. I want to just go straight through the way I always did. But one of the things that, oh, by the way, class is in session. If I didn't say it, I'm always, did I finally? Yeah. And don't let me forget to say class dismissed, because, you know, it's that open and closure thing. You kind of got to have it. But the first time that I met you and you fed us turkey dinner, I remember we had turkey dinner at your house. And I started asking you questions about yourself. Oh, and by the way, Dad, you know how I knew he was so interested in you? I know I've told you this. And I mean, he hadn't been showed no interest, I mean, for anybody for years and years and years. I mean, so I knew this was serious when he said to me, don't tell her how old I am. I'm like, Dad, she's going to meet me and do the math. Okay. You know, come on. He was so cute. It was so cute. But anyway, yeah, you did the math. You figured it out, and that didn't stop anything, did it? No. But, you know, we are star sisters. We are connected. And one of the things that I most appreciate about you, and I hope I'm not, you know, talking out of school, you know, no pun intended, but the first time that you came here and you met Mom, and the two of you sat and talked for hours and hours, and she held your hand and you held hers, and you kissed her hair and you stroked her and you loved her as though you had known her forever. And it wasn't that much later that I found out that the connection and the bond between the two of you was something that I would have to throw into the category of miraculous, because there's a minimum of 8.3 billion people on planet Earth. And what are the chances that both of you are descendants from Clan Buchanan in Scotland?
Yeah.
What are the chances?
There were so many similarities, you know, that our family intertwined with.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. And talking about the first time we met, my husband passed away 1 year and 2 days after we opened our business. Yeah. And so I was left with everything, and he used to do the finances and the advertising. So I had to dive right in. So he passed away in June 9th. And by the beginning of July, I had to start figuring out what to do for August, you know, because you plan a month ahead at least. And so when I met your dad the first day, my husband wasn't gone that long. I met him in July. I started advertising with him in August. And he actually was the love of my life. Like, you know, my first husband, my second husband both fell in love with me. I learned to love them. But Roger and I just connected instantly. And, you know, it's sad when that happens so late in life. But on the other hand, whatever time we have together, we just enjoy each other's company so much that it's was meant to be.
Absolutely.
Know? By Christmas, we were, from July to Christmas, we were living together. So. Mm-hmm. And we don't spend much time apart at all. We're together pretty much 24/7, especially now.
Yeah.
But, you know.
Well, one of the things that you do You are, you know how I always say, be the light you seek, be the beacon of hope in the world, be the change you wish to see in the world. Anybody that knows me has heard those phrases come out of me time and again. And it's, these aren't bumper stickers, these are messages, these are truth. Now, if you want to have a better world, be what's better in the
Right.
world, be what's good in the world, and then others will be inspired and will emulate that. We are suffering not just societally here in this country, but worldwide. Humanity is suffering, I think, with not just a lack of empathy, but a lack of hope and a lack of feeling. There's like an undergirding of insecurity and instability. And, this is the paradigm shift. This is what the world is going through right now. And so what we need to do is be the light. And you do that. You have a foundation that you work with, you have a church group that you work with, and you work all week long, and then on the weekends you devote your time, and have started bringing Dad into that process too. And it has been wonderful for him. He calls me when you guys get back from dispersing food, helping at the shelters, and helping the homeless people, and helping anybody that needs help. You're there for. And you and I have talked endlessly about this, and we've both agreed that even though the people you are helping are so incredibly grateful before your spirit and your generosity and your kindness, you and I both know and admit that when we do for others like that, we get a lot out of it too.
It's better to give than receive. I mean, that is the way. When Don passed away, I had not attended church in many years. I went to church as a child. As a teenager, I rebelled not against church or any loss of God. I accepted God when I was at a young age in church. But I never found a church that I felt comfortable in. I tried many. But when Don passed away, my technician said to me, Carlene, why don't you come to church with us on Sunday? And I thought that sounded like a pretty good idea. Yeah. At that point, I needed help from somewhere.
And a sense of community, I think.
Community.
Well, you had lost your mom not that long before you lost your husband.
I lost my mom on my dad's birthday.
Yeah.
And I lost my sister 4 months later on my mom's birthday, 5 minutes before my mom would have been born. My mom would have been 100 years old when she passed. 4 months, in 4 months, she would have been 100. But so I was ready to find church that I, would be accepted in and like. And from the moment I walked through the door, I was at home. It's, the first person that greeted me is the president and CEO of Wings of Angels, which is the company that we feed the homeless. And I'm now vice president of Wings of Angels. So she was the very first person I met at the church. And from then on, every single person I ran into hugged me like they had known me all my life. So I was very welcomed, and in the sense of feeling at home. Uncomfortable in that I hadn't been to church for so many years, and I didn't remember half of what I needed to know. Although the more I read and the more I study, the more I know that it's been there all along, that I've heard it either in conversation or this or that, but having read it before, no, I can't say I've done any of that since I was a child. So my life completely changed when I accepted God again and was baptized again. And it's just been amazing ever since. And then I got I went Sunday, the following Saturday was we had a festival at the church to provide bikes for the children and toys and so forth. So we had all kinds of little booths with games in it and things. And I showed up that very same next week for that, and I've been there ever since. And we just, it all just clicked from there. So, and then I heard about Wings of Angels. I think the following week was Avos. Avos is a food pantry. We serve about per month, I think about 750 families between Saturday feedings. It's the second Saturday of every month. We do about 500 cars. We prepare boxes. They get meat, they get vegetables, they get canned goods, they get staples. And we load that into we have a progression. We set up all these boxes and then the cars drive through. Some of the people in those cars get there at 7, 8 o'clock the night before, and we don't start handing out food until 11 o'clock in the morning.
They wouldn't do that unless they needed it.
So
yeah.
They have to need it. They're not going to sit in line for that many hours and sleep in their car if they didn't desperately need the food.
Yeah.
So we do that, and then Avos also provides food for a food pantry for 3 schools. They have backpacks, and they fill the backpacks with food on Friday so that these children will have food for the weekend. And they bring the empty backpacks back on Monday, and then we fill them again.
Filled again.
Week. So they do that, and then they also have, if your family needs more food during the month, they on the Thursday, one Thursday a month, they also provide a reservation only food pantry. So that's Avos, and that's what we do with them. Roger's been with me a couple of times to help fill boxes and loading all the vegetables in a bag or whatever part of it.
He's like Santa Claus on Christmas morning, isn't he? Isn't he? He gets all excited.
Yeah,
he loves to give things to people. He loves it.
Yeah, so he's seen, because I'd talk about it, but he didn't have a clue what we were doing. So finally I convinced him, and I guess he just went with me one Saturday, and then I think he went with us another Saturday on that one. But he goes almost every week that we do the feeding of the homeless. And that's Wings of Angels. And what we do there, Grace started about 4 years ago in preparing peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and bottles of water. And they went to the Salvation Army area where a lot of the homeless hang out. And they would provide a bottle of water and a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And we've progressed now to where we serve about 50 people every other Tuesday, a hot meal. Sometimes we have clothing, but everything we provide them has been new. Occasionally we do get donations of some used things, but for the most part, we have enough. When we're handing it out, we'll have 40 or 50 blankets or whatever we have. Grace, buys with the funds that we manage to have donated to us. And so we on Thanksgiving, at Thanksgiving time, we did a nice big festival. We put the tents up and had tables set up so that they could sit and eat, because usually they take the bags of food and they go and sit on the lawn and eat wherever all their paraphernalia is. These people are living on the streets. They have no home, they have no shelter, they have no roof over their head, and they don't know where their next meal is coming from. A week ago, not last weekend, but the week before that we did it, we had a couple of boxes left over, because you don't know how many people. Sometimes you have 5 or 6 new faces. Sometimes some of the people that are regulars don't show up. They're on the streets, so you don't always know that they're all going to show up. And we had some extra, and I took them and went behind another set of stores and found a couple sitting there. And I gave them the food, and they were just so excited and grateful because they hadn't eaten in over 24 hours. They don't know when they're going to get their next meal. They might be standing collecting money on the road, trying to get a few pennies to buy something, but they just, are making their life on the street. Once they become homeless, it's very tough to get off the street. You
Yeah,
know,
it
if
is.
you don't have an address, I mean, we also help to connect with Wings of Angels if at all possible, if they're able to go to work and they fit the criteria. We do have some places that would hire them, but they have to have an address. And if they're living on the street, it's very difficult because they don't have an address. And then there's all kinds of reasons that people are on the street, you know.
Yes.
Some of them want to be there, some of them don't. They truly want to get off the street. So we try to give them a hand up wherever possible. There was one guy that didn't have any shoes, and Grace went and got him shoes. And he found a job cleaning the parking lot at a gas station a couple times a week, and it was enough to get him a hotel room. So, you know, you just, whatever we can do, that, you know, we try. And so that's Wings of Angels and Avos, and my church is Kingdom Life, um, International Christian Center. Um, we just believe in how our relationship is with God, and growing that relationship. And it's just been very, very good for me. And the things that, you know, I didn't even notice in the past, now your eyes are opened and you see things that you didn't see in the past. Prayers are answered that we talk about. I mean, we've been praying for you, and you have some amazing news I'm sure you want to talk about tonight, don't you?
Well, I had another PET scan, my third, last week. And, you know, we pray together almost every day. I mean, we talk every day. We text every day. I mean, you're just such a foundational part of my life. And I'll often get a message from you when I need it the most. You know, it's so, and one of the things that in all the time that we have spent together, now one of the things that we do when we're together, which is to say grace when we're sharing a meal. Now it's just a normal part of our family. It was like, we just like, why weren't we doing this? You know, even if we were saying thank you as we sat down to the meal, to take each other's hands, and for somebody at the table to speak the words of gratitude aloud fills the whole room with a different energy. And I'm addicted to it now. I mean, I won't sit down to eat a chocolate chip cookie without saying thank you. You know, I just won't. It's because I think that, you know, if your attitude is gratitude, it opens up a whole different level of consciousness. And you know, I've always been a very deeply spiritual person. You're reading my books now for the first time.
Amen.
And
I thought I would read something like that.
don't be scared,
I
honey.
didn't even know who you all were or anything about The Conjuring before I met your dad. I
Yeah.
had no idea. I didn't, nothing like that. But I have had my own experience now.
Mhm. Well, and the books are so different than the movies that, I mean, the truth is always stranger than fiction anyway. But yeah, but the thing that I so much appreciate about our relationship, our sisterhood, our familial attachment to each other, is the support that you have given me since my diagnosis. And I mean, you're getting it double barrel. Not only are you dealing with me and what I'm facing, but you have to keep my father from falling off the ledge. You know, I know how hard this has been for him. This has been absolutely overwhelming for him. And, you know, I have basically functioned as, you know, the center of his universe for a long time. And so just the thought of losing me is just absolutely overwhelming to him.
Yeah.
And I think that it was last Monday or Tuesday before I had the PET scan that we prayed together, and you assured me that that this healing that is ongoing, that I'm not going to say I was nervous about it because I knew that it would be good news. I didn't know how good the news would be, in the same way that I didn't know how good the news would be when I had my first follow-up PET scan a few months ago. And when my doctor on Wednesday morning came walking into the office, she was smiling from ear to ear, and she was there to go through the PET scan results with me. And it was almost like I felt you in the room. I felt your presence. And in fact, I called you right away after we left the hospital so that you could tell Dad what the news was. But remember when I got my initial diagnosis, and she used two words, inoperable, ending, stage 4. I mean, she put,
We didn't accept that.
I did not.
None of us did.
None of us did. None of us did. She has reversed her diagnosis. And she said that it's not just the chemo that is doing this. She said, and I said, well, I got friends in high places, Dr. Knight, I do. And she's like, and she said, well, what we should talk about is maybe in a few months when you have the next PET scan, maybe now we can start talking about lumpectomy for the two much smaller tumors now in my breast. And I said, this is what I want to project. And this is what my intention is to continue on this regimen until there's nothing left to remove with a scalpel. Because it's gone.
Because we already believe that. God has already healed it. It is already done.
Right.
But it happens in his time. So we have to give him his time. It's not our time. It's not anything that we do. It's God's time. And it will happen because he's already done it.
But don't you think, though, Carlene, that, it would be great, to say I've had this miraculous healing. Well, I have had a miraculous healing.
Miraculous.
But if I didn't go through this process and let it happen gradually and incrementally and let this healing progress, the healing itself is deepening my faith. The healing itself.
And then your testimony will be amazing.
Yes, it will. And, and I really do believe that, let's face it, honey. One of the first things I told you when Christine took me over to the emergency room 2 days after Mom's memorial service, and they said, well, we've got good news and we've got bad news. And the good news was that they ran extensive blood tests on me and I had no markers for cancer, none. And then the bad news is we're seeing things that are very concerning in the PET scan and the CAT scan. And before I left the emergency room, I was on the phone with Dr. Knight's office, and they made an appointment for me immediately. And so I was off. I mean, that was it. I was off. There was no turning back. There was nobody in this family was going to let me just throw my hands in the air and say, you know what? Maybe it's my time. No. When Mom was leaving us slowly, I went through what Jeff would call a season of grief where I didn't care if I lived or died. I would have been perfectly fine to just go with her because I was so sad. And then I was diagnosed with an incurable, inoperable disease, and suddenly I gave a damn about whether or not I was going to stay in this world and how long. I cared. And I reached out to you and Dad, and we cried together and we prayed together I mean, I had just been with you 48 hours before I got that initial diagnosis, which they would not say was a diagnosis. They said it was an assessment, because the diagnosis would have to come from the surgeon who did the biopsies, the multiple biopsies that I had. I had 13 tumors in my lungs.
Mhm.
All breast cancer. It was all the exact same cancer. It was from, remember when I said something happened in my breast and I felt something rupture? And that was about 3 months before Mom died. And you were like, honey, you got to go take care of it. And I said, I can't. I can't.
Yeah.
How can I deal with this with Mom? Mom's the priority. Mom has to be the priority, and I'll deal with it later. It was too late anyway.
And plus you wouldn't let your mom worry about it at that
No.
point. You didn't want her to have any concerns.
No, every day she would take my breast and hold it every day when I went and brought her a coffee in the morning, and she would just wrap her hand around it and she would pray. And I would say, Mom, it's just a cyst. It's a cyst. It just is. They'll drain it. It'll be fine. I'll deal with it later. It doesn't hurt. It's fine. And I really did believe that. I really did, because I never even imagined that I would have cancer. I mean, it just never even occurred to me that that was a possibility. I've been so healthy my whole life. But she knew. She knew. And so anyway, the first PET scan revealed tumors on my adrenal glands, 2 tumors, all through my lymphatic system. Lymph nodes just lit up like, all like crazy. And the thing in my breast filled my hand. It was like having a third boob. It was like it got really big, and I kept it hidden in a bra so that people who were hugging me weren't going, oh my God, and feeling that mass. But it's almost gone. It's almost gone. The first PET scan after I started chemo, 12 of the 13 tumors were gone. Now there's only a fraction of the one that's left that appeared just almost translucently. It's literally dissolving in my body. And running for the exit, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure, running for the nearest exit, because all these cancer cells are like, oh my God, we picked the wrong person to do this to. But I only have 1 lymph node left that has any bit of a lump in it. All that pain that was in my neck from the cancer that was in my spine, that's all gone. So I said to Dr. Knight, she's like, well, the next time we do this in a few months, we'll, do 3 more rounds of chemo, and then maybe we can start talking about a lumpectomy. And I just grabbed her in my arms and I hugged her and I kissed her and I told her how much I loved her. And before we left the room, I turned and I looked at her and I said, my intention is for there to be nothing left to remove with surgery.
That's
and
right.
She just looked at me and she said, you know what, Andrea, I believe you.
Yep.
I mean, she had to reverse her diagnosis a couple of days ago, reverse it.
And she's the one that said, I'll try to buy you some time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And the drug that I am on is not meant to kill cancer. It is meant to hold it at bay, to keep it from growing more. That's the intention of it. So when they put you on this drug, it's a foregone conclusion that it's going to take you. They're just going to try to extend your life. It's a life extender.
That's
it's not
what she told you. Yeah.
right. And because she didn't just see any point in putting a port in and having me go for infusions. I get infusions, but it's to strengthen my bones, and so that the chemo doesn't wreck my teeth. That's what it's for. It's not part of a chemo regimen. It's specifically to keep my bones strong, because cancer softens and weakens bones, and even a slip and fall can be disastrous. But she said my bone density is unbelievable. I said, "We, do you think we should do a bone density scan?" And she laughed. She's like, "I think that would kind of be a waste of electricity in the machine." I mean, she doesn't even bother giving me EKGs anymore because my reverse polarity shorts the machine out twice before we get the reading on the third time. And that happened over and over and over again. I'm like, could you just put the stethoscope on my heart so that you can prove that I'm alive and well? And she's like, yep, absolutely. I mean, we have a relationship now. She gets it. But what really blew her mind, remember the day I called you and I said, I got all my paperwork back from when they did the deep dive into my genetics. And it came back that 29% of my DNA is unidentifiable. And I have absolutely no markers for any kind of cancer in my genetic code at all. So this happened for a reason.
That's right. Because of to show you and to strengthen your faith.
Yeah.
To bring
help others.
This faith to others. You have such a wide audience of people that you help on a regular basis. That even if you don't know you're helping them, there's people out there that are being helped by things that you say and through your show and the amazing work that you do, that we all knew it was, God's way to have you healed, because you there's more that you have to do. And I believe that 100%. And besides that, I haven't known you long enough. We have a lot of years that we need to spend together.
You want to come over? Yeah. It's only 7 hours.
I know. I'm thinking about another trip soon.
Oh, good.
We were talking about it just recently that we should hit Georgia and then go to North Carolina. I don't know when, but
yep, and go see your Christine.
Go see my Christine.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have Christines in common. We have but our family members or names I can't think offhand. But I'm
sorry, I still can't get over the Clan Buchanan thing, okay?
Clan Buchanan, I know.
I have been to Scotland, and one of the things, when you do a 10-day tour of Scotland.
We're going to do a trip to Scotland.
We are. And one of the things that I learned, which I actually already knew, was that a lot of the clans over, going back to the Dark Ages, I mean, in Middle Ages, the clans built their clan by abducting children from other families, enslaving people. And they built their clan from stealing from other clans, including their own members. The Buchanan clan did not. The Buchanan clan was all one extended family that loved and cared for each other and protected each other, and they were all blood relations. Mm-hmm. And so the blood that flowed through my mother's vein was akin to the blood that flows through your veins. And so in a way, just having you in my life keeps her alive too. She loves you, Carlene. Yeah. And April loves you. My sister keeps giving you gifts.
I know. I'm wearing a gift from April. Shall we talk about that?
Yes, tell the story. It was amazing. I'll never forget when you called me. You're like, Annie. I'm like, what happened? What happened? I knew it. I could tell from your voice something magical and miraculous happened. So tell the story.
So nothing like this happened to me. My daughter has spirits. They've had all kinds of things. I was always afraid of all that. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want any more nightmares because I've had my share. So after I got into this family and start hearing things and so forth, and sometimes I always worried when I met your dad and realized that we were going to probably be together, was how your family was going to feel about their dad, because sometimes when people get older, they don't want, them to have another relationship or for whatever reason. So I was always worried how I would be accepted into a family. I'm the same age as, up there. I'm older than you, I think, but
Yeah,
not much. We're
much,
right
which
about
is
the same age. So I didn't know how that was going to go over. So, but anyway,
do
all
you know
things
how
working
grateful our
out, I
family
had
is
met
that he's got
everybody.
you?
Huh?
Oh my God. How grateful our whole family is that he has you.
Well,
It's
I'm
amazing.
happy to have him. So to take that on
We
right now.
kind of sucked you right into the parent vortex, did we not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm in there. But in all things said, this was not anything I would expect to happen to me. I had met everybody. I knew all the family. Everything was wonderful. We had just moved back into my house because
Our
your
house
home
flooded.
flooded and black mold and the whole bit. So we
Yeah.
had just finished. Everything was put away. There were no boxes. When I finished my dishes, my counters are empty. Well, not quite as empty as they used to be on my own because we have lots of things out now.
Stuff.
But
Yeah, we have
we have so much stuff.
90% of what I own is still in your house.
I know, but that's okay. It looks beautiful. We love it. So I dry out my sink when I'm done with my dish towel, and then I throw it in the laundry. It's done for the day. I was washing out the sink and rinsing and getting ready to dry, and I heard a metal clink in the sink. Now, that was a strange noise, and I looked down to continue to dry, and there was a heart in the sink. And I thought my necklace that my daughter gave me for Mother's Day many years ago had broken and fallen in the sink. So I reached for my necklace in the sink. At the same time, I reached for my necklace on my neck. And I already had one on my neck. But in the sink, there was another necklace. I now have two hearts. And there was no one in the kitchen, just me. The counters were clean and clear. There was no way in this world that this just fell off of something. It came from ether. It came from,
Yes.
and I didn't know where or how, but I called you immediately to ask about April. I'm like, who else would give me a heart? But maybe April, do you recognize this heart? And you said, no, I sent you a picture. Didn't recognize it at all. So it was unbeknownst to us why a heart just showed up in my sink. So about a week or so later, I lost an earring. I seem to be losing earrings right and left these days, but I lost an earring and I went where your dad used to sell jewelry. He has a lot of boxes of jewelry. So I went through the jewelry looking and I opened the box to get a new pair of earrings. And the first thing, what do I see in the box? A ring with the exact same heart that was in my sink.
Yeah.
Only one was shiny and one has been worn until the gold was completely off.
Yeah.
And they're alike. They're, I guess now it works. But anyway, they're the same heart. This one's upside down.
Yeah.
So I would say that April visited me and gave me the heart off of her neck in acceptance of me to the family, just like the rest of everyone did.
Yeah.
I don't have any other explanation.
No, and I knew, and I told you, oh, thank you, Bill. We have 5 minutes
Thank
left.
you.
But I knew, I told you, I said, that's April. April's just sending you a message. April's just, and then that was the day I told you about my the rosary beads that had disappeared the day that she died. And after I went and I did I arrived in California to do an event. That's when I found out that she had passed away. I came back 2 days later. Dad and I slept for about 3 hours, and then we left to drive to Georgia to be with the rest of the family, and to have her funeral, which just passed the anniversary. Was she died on March 8th. Her body was discovered the morning of March 9th, and we had her funeral on the 15th, which is the Ides of March. And March is a hard month for me to get through because her actual birthday is on March 27th. But I felt a presence around you that I knew was her. And just like when we got back from the funeral, and we hadn't met you yet. It was several years before Dad even met you. But I went into the bathroom, and the makeup bag that she gave me, the Victorian makeup bag, which was missing, and I could not find it. And I could not find my rosary beads to take to California out to the Queen Mary, which my Uncle Gene, who had given those to my father, who gave them to me. I wanted to know if, maybe Chip Coffey, who I was going to be there with, world famous psychic medium, might be able to hold the beads and see if I could connect with Uncle Gene on the ship. And I came back. They were gone. I tore the house apart. They were gone. And when we got back from her funeral, that makeup bag was on my bathroom vanity, turned upside down, and the rosary beads were in it, and they were the only thing that was in it, and they were not there when we left that house. That vanity was completely cleaned off. And all of a sudden the phone rang, and it's Chip Coffey, who I never said a word to about any of this, because he was the first person of my friends that I saw right after I had been informed that April had died. And I was in shock. And, rosary beads were off the table. I mean, that was not something we were going to discuss that weekend. He was just holding me together. He and Greta and Rebecca were holding me together. And I walked in, and I'm like, Dad! I'm screaming through the house for Dad to come, and he comes flying into my bathroom, and I'm like, look at that. There they are. And the phone rings, and it's Chip Coffey. And he said, April wanted me to tell you that your Uncle Gene needed those rosary beads to help her cross. And now she's crossed, and you can have them back.
Wow.
Pope John the 23rd gave those rosary beads to my Uncle Eugene.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm going to say it once again, because I'm living it. Dare to have faith. Dare to believe.
Yes.
Because I'll tell you what, if there was ever a moment of doubt in my life, which I can't even remember that there has been since I was a child, I don't think that I've ever doubted. But now I know that we are not alone, and that we are loved, and that there are angels among us, and that you are one that walks this earth. And I am so proud, so honored, and so privileged to have you in my life, Carlene.
I feel the same about you and all of your family. I've been accepted, and I truly love this family and our times together. Looking forward to more soon, I hope.
Yep, very soon. Very, very soon. Well, we are running out of time, so I wanted to tell people, if you go to the link for this show, if you want to, make any kind of a contribution to the group that Carlene works with, Wings of Angels, if there's anything that you want to do to help them do their mission in the Orlando area, please feel free. And if you can't find it, reach out to me or Linny on Buttercup Brigade, and we'll give you the link and put you directly in contact. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, sweetheart.
Thank you
love
for having
you.
me.
I truly love and adore you, and we will be together soon.
Absolutely. Love
And
you.
you have a wonderful night. And for everybody that's been watching Soul School tonight, please remember, you can make a difference in the world.
Absolutely.
You can make a difference in the world just by opening a door for someone, or smiling at someone who's feeling a despair that you can't even imagine, and they might not be wearing it on their face, but they're feeling it in their heart, and they feel alone in the world. acts of kindness, just the smallest gesture, can literally save another human being's life because they feel seen and they feel heard. And even for a moment, they feel loved, just like the dog that I held in my arms and kissed and caressed. And that dog left this world knowing that she was loved. And so keep that in your heart. And with that, I'm going to go dry my eyes now before I do a world awakening. And with that, I thank you all for watching. I love you all. Class dismissed.